I genuinely think if he has another cracker in this next test, he might well and truly have earned his spot on that mantle as the best cricketer in the world right now.
I reckon if you took Smith out of that Ashes series, England would have cleaned it up. Like, I reckon in like 4-1 or something like that.
Yeah, but then
I mean, I'd probably go Archer, Broad, Anderson. I rate Curran high the most, but I can't really see them not picking Archer.
I think there's a few players this is a really important test for. I think it's really important for John Campbell and Shea Hope, both of them.
Queensland! It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close! He's given him! He's given him! Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Welcome
to episode 41 of the On the Ball podcast. As you've just heard or seen, depending on what you're watching or listening on, I'm once again joined by Christian Pilcher. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, pretty well, thank you. Do my eyes look red? I just got back from a skateboard, and usually when I skateboard, because like the wind, I usually come home looking like I've just watched Titanic and I've been crying for 3 hours or something. But
they look sexy, mate.
Oh, cheers, mate. Stop it. Yeah, so like we did the other week, well, today was actually meant to be an NFL fantasy episode, but unfortunately the third member of the three-man band pulled out. He got the late call up to work, which is obviously a lot more important than this, because money actually matters. So we've postponed that to next Saturday's episode. So if you really were keen for that episode, unfortunately, you're going to have to just sit on your hands for a week and wait for that one. But why don't join us today? We're going to be chatting about cricket. Once again, the Wisden Trophy, so the England versus West Indies Test series. And yeah, we're just going to talk about that. Pretty much nothing else to chat about in terms of cricket. There's not much else going on apart from the old 3-team cricket, but wasn't actually that interesting, really. It's just 3 groups of players mucking around, basically. Did you actually hear that they're changing the name of the Wisden Trophy to the Richards Botham Trophy?
Did not hear that, but I rate it.
This is the last year the Wisden Trophy will be awarded to the winner of the England West Indies Test match. From now on, it's going to be the Richards Botham Trophy. So yeah,
I rate that change.
There's going to become a time where every trophy is named about 2 players, and then they're just going to be like, wait, what happens to like this generation? Because it's like we can't just kick out the old people's name on the trophy.
No, they'll rename them every 50.
Yeah, it's actually a fair point. So let's just quickly review the last test match. So England ended up winning by 113 runs, and there was a day rained out. So it was a pretty comprehensive win, but you do need a bit of context. The West Indies were about an hour off holding on for a draw. So it was pretty tightly contested, despite what that scoreline does suggest. But it has to be said, England were dominant pretty much every minute of that test. Really set it up with that opening innings of 469 runs and that huge partnership between the fellas, Sibley and Stokes. What was that partnership? 81 to 341. 260.
Large.
Actually, yeah, that's 260. Pretty quick maths there, boys. So that's pretty unusual for England and something they've been lacking over the last, for so long. Like, England's had such an issue with people getting stuck between 30 and like 60. So it was good to see 2 of the lads really go on with it. And although they did get criticised, in particular Sibley, for their slow scoring rate, now you look back at it after the match, and England's won by 120 runs, and you can really put it down to that partnership. So I think the people criticising that should just shut up, Michael Holding included. I wasn't copping that. I actually wasn't really copping it from the commentators, because like fair enough in the moment saying it, but when you're day 5 and you've legit realised that innings has set up the test match, it's like what Michael Holding was saying was maybe when he got to 100, he should have started accelerating, which I get that, but for people who were just saying in general he bats too slow, like just deal with it. And like Michael Holding was saying, from 100 onward was just selfish. What do you think of that call?
Yeah, well, obviously, it was a great innings. I mean, since Cook, we've had a bit of a gap with our openers, and it's good to see that we've got one that can finally buckle down.
Marky Stoneman.
Yeah, look, yeah, exactly. And you love those sorts of players, don't you, mate? You're one yourself.
Well, I just think it's insane mental strength to although people would be more impressed by someone batting faster, someone who's played cricket, you as well, even though you haven't played for like 6 or 7 years, it's actually tougher to bat slow than fast, because like fast you just start, it's exciting for yourself, where when you get slow it's like insane patience, insane mental toughness. So
and you've got fielders sledging you, saying like, oh, falling behind the run rate here, but you've just got to ignore all that.
Yeah, and commentators, you got like, he's probably come home, or I don't know, day 2 of the test, and he's read the papers getting lipped off for scoring 120. Like you actually have to cop that stuff. So yeah, I really do respect it. But yeah, were you impressed, happy overall with the win, or?
Yeah, well, obviously it was an England clinic. The rain almost got the draw for the Windies, but it was a one way stream the entire match. England dominated, and it was mainly Ben Stokes, but yeah, Sibley's innings was very good as well. It was a gag that he batted for like 380 balls, and then the first ball he tried to tee off, he got out on. But he's clearly not that sort of player. So
and yeah, that was pretty much it. No one else really made runs. Joss Butler made like a junk time 40 at the end. A few of the bowlers pitched in. Ross and Chase took 5 for. Pretty good effort. And then the West Indies came out. Not a bad total of 287. In the first test, that would have been a good total, but just compared to that huge England first innings, kind of just paled in comparison. Brathwaite and Shamar Brooks and Roston Chase all with half centuries. And yeah, that's just the difference between the two sides in that test. None of those three really went on with it and scored a big 100 like Stokes and Sibley did. And then that moved us into the England second innings, where Stokes decided to open himself. Well, I don't know if it was the coach's decision or his own, but he wasn't captain route, sorry. So he came out, smacked 78 of 57, probably the most entertaining. Contradictory to what I was saying before, I love my slow batsmen, but that hour of Test cricket was pretty silly.
Yeah.
Just every ball, Root would get a run, or Pope, or even Crawley, and then Stokes would just have a crack. So that was good fun.
Did you see the shot early on the 5th morning? I think it was Holder or Roach, and he just danced him and smacked him 100 metres.
Yeah, mate. Some of the straight shots were insane. Like, he's just so good.
He's a weapon.
Yeah, and then so they put on 129, declared. Stokes probably, although once again he's not the captain, but probably robbed of a ton there. It was
good point, actually.
22 short of it, which would have been pretty insane.
He could have got it in like 3 or 4 overs. I actually didn't think about that.
Hurts the stats of the West Indies bowlers this innings. All economy rates over 6. Kemar Roach lucky enough to pick up 2 wickets. And then on the final 2 sessions and a half, England skittled them for 198. They just couldn't hang on for the draw. Blackwood and Brooks did their best, put on a really good partnership, I think of over 100, but no one else went with them. Holder tried for 35, but there was just no one else really chipped in. Dowrich went cheaply, Chase went cheaply, and the top 3 all went pretty easily. So big win for England. And yeah, it really just sets up this third test. I was getting a bit worried that I didn't want it to be a draw, because that means we would have been stuck with the whole Ashes thing where they retain, but like they could lose the series or draw the series. So I didn't want that to happen, so I'm kind of happy England won, and that really sets up this third test, as I was saying. But in terms of Ben Stokes, he won man of the match. We both gave him we did our votes again. We both gave him our 5 votes. Also, just quickly, in terms of those votes, Roston Chase got 4 from me, 3 from you. Sibley got 4 from you, 3 from me. And then Shamar Brooks both got 2. Broad got 1. So that's a quick rundown of that. I'll go over the votes leaderboard in a second. But do you think Ben Stokes is the best cricketer right now?
Well, we were talking about this. We were talking about this at the Nets the other day,
Yeah.
and it's an interesting one because obviously you're on the bandwagon. You think he is, and I probably agree if we're talking all formats. But I think Steve Smith probably still has him in tests only. That's my view.
It's a tough one. Like, I know Steve Smith's a lot better batsman, don't get me wrong. But so if you look from the Ashes until now, Stokes has the second most runs. However, albeit he has played a lot more tests than the Australians and a few of the other countries. But he's sitting on 2 runs behind Marnus at an average of 60. He has 250 more runs than Steve Smith, but Smith's been going at an average of about 75. So he's got him there. And Stokes has like 4 tons, 750s or something, which is all pretty similar to Marnus and Smith. So they've Marnus and Smith probably both have him in terms of the batting, and there's also blokes like Babar Azam, Rohit Sharma, but they haven't really played enough tests to take their stats into account. So there is 2 main challenges for the best batsman in the world right now, and then, well, in the last year, 12 months anyway. And then you look at the bowling. So they've got him there. I admit that. But then you look at the bowling, and he's in top 10 for wickets taken, and he's actually bowled less overs than everyone in the top 6. So it's like he just does it. He does it all. And I know you look at him and go, "Nah, Smith's a way better batsman." But when you factor in that bowling, you factor in how good of a fieldsman he is. Although Smith is also a world class fielder, and then there's just something intangible about Ben Stokes. It's like he brings that aggressive competitiveness to an England team that otherwise I don't think would have it. Like England's historically kind of like your Joe Roots, your Cooks, they're kind of just pleasant people who are kind of the typical gentlemen of the cricket sport. But Stokes kind of brings that edge that kind of Australia is typically known for, really. And just stuff like on the 5th day, he was bowling with a really close field. Someone drove it through mid off. He took off after he'd bowled the ball, dived, stopped the ball, went like the ball was legit this far from the rope. He dived full stretch, knocked it back. Don't think he even saved a run because they ran 4 anyway. But like that's just the crazy stuff Stokes does that I don't think many other cricketers would be willing to do. And he's just like in that test match, he showed he can bat slow, he can bat fast, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not really fully on the bus that he's the best cricketer. It was more kind of just a thought that I was thinking when I was watching that test. I was like, is this man actually the best cricketer on the planet? But yeah, it's just hard to argue when you look at his stats. But I understand the Smith call. Do you think in all 3 formats it would Stokes is the number 1?
So, like, if we view
Include
all
all
3,
so this is the way I put it. Say you've made a new country and you get to pick 11 players for your team, and obviously because you're a new country, you have a team in tests, ODIs, T20s. Who's your first pick?
Yeah, that's a very, very tough one. I mean, I think in one day as Stokes is as good a batsman alone as Steve Smith, because I don't really
He's
Smith
not, yeah.
Smith definitely isn't the best in the world at one days, but
He's not as dominant.
yeah. Yeah, look, I probably would take Stokes. I don't know if there's some English bias in that call, but
Yeah, I guess Kohli, Sharma,
true.
Williamson.
Actually, yeah, Kohli. You'd almost take Kohli over Smith if it was 3 formats.
Yeah, that it's a tough one. Like I don't want to go too in depth because I haven't like actually fully thought it through or looked at the stats or anything. But I definitely think it's something that well, it doesn't really need to be discussed, is it? They're just going to play cricket no matter what people think of them. But I genuinely think if he has another cracker in this next test, he might well and truly have earned his spot on that mantle as the best cricketer in the world right now. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Despite
It's a
being
good debate.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, there's some factors that play a part, like the Australians not playing cricket right now probably helps Stokes' cause in my eyes because I'm watching Stokes, I'm not watching Smith.
Yeah.
And then, but another thing in Stokes' favour is in terms of his batting, he has to bat on hard decks, where hard decks to bat on hard pitches. Whereas the Australians, like what they were playing on in the summer, was just like cement. So
Yeah, that's true. But the
bowling,
Smith is the one player in that Australian team that dominated no matter what pitch.
yeah.
No
Well,
matter what sort of
Marnus as well. Marnus seems
yeah,
to be doing pretty well
like
now.
not on Smith's level. Like in the Ashes last year,
Yeah,
that was just ridiculous what Smith did.
yeah.
I reckon if you took Smith out of that Ashes series, England would have cleaned it up. Like I reckon in like 4-1 or something like that.
Yeah, but then it's interesting because Smith didn't have a very good summer. Well,
Yeah.
compared to his lofty standards, so he's an interesting player, Smithy. But obviously, you'll probably take him carrying the team in the Ashes over a Pakistan series at home.
Yeah.
So that moves us into our votes leaderboard at the moment. I've actually got, despite me saying Ben Stokes is one of the best cricketers in the world, arguably the best, I don't even have him on top at the moment. I've got big Roston Chase on top of my leaderboard. That 5 for in the second match got him the 4 votes, and then I think he scored 250s or something, or 240s, and it took a couple wickets in the first test, which picked him up 2 votes. And then he sits in front of Holder and Stokes tied on 5 votes. For you, you've got Stokes. He's got a 2-point lead with 7 votes on Shannon Gabriel, who has the 5 from the first test. So all pretty tied up. Obviously, a 3-test series, it's not going to be like a big lead for the winner. So both up for grabs. Me, Cork and Pilch as MVPs. But yeah, so that moves us into the 3rd test.
How come
It starts tonight.
You made a bit of a spicy call with giving Chase the 4 votes in the last test over Sibley.
Well, you gave him 3 votes. So. Yeah, but people always say that a 5 for is the equivalent of 100.
Mm.
And then
True.
so if you cancel out the 5 for and the 100, then Sibley's made 20 runs because he made 120. Didn't bat in the second innings. Roston Chase he didn't bowl again in the second innings, but he made a 50 in the first innings.
Yeah.
So that was just my logic. But Sibley, especially because he kind of set up the win, probably stiff not to get the 4. And like Chase took 5 far, but when the other teams made 470, does the 5 for even matter? And they actually declared, so it's not like his 5 for really did anything. But
But he did
still took 5 wickets.
Most of his wickets were the top order, wasn't it? Like he got
he took got Crawley out for a duck.
Yeah.
Who did he get through? He got Burns out as well, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, they weren't junk time polls. But yeah, that leads us into the 3rd test, as I said. And now, what are you thinking for England's selection at the moment? So this is coming out on Saturday, but we're talking about it on Friday. So we don't actually know the team yet. When you're listening, you'll know because day 1 would have happened. All we know right now, we've got a 14-man squad England has announced. It is the squad of the last test plus the 3 pace bowlers from the first test. So Anderson, Wood and Archer. So there's going to be 3 to be cut. Who are you going with? Who do you think they should pick as the 3? Or maybe even, I've seen some people on Twitter saying don't pick Best, but
interesting.
What are you thinking for the bowling attack?
Well, it's at the same ground, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was actually turning quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'd definitely
Chase took 5 for.
I'd definitely pick Best, which means couple of the bowlers would be pretty stiff. But I mean, I'd probably go Archer, Broad, Anderson. I rate Curran high the most, but I can't really see them not picking Archer.
I think that's exactly what they'll do. Also, by the way, the best, not picking best, they have Stokes, who's taken the Tide most wickets in the series. So why would you go 5 seamers? But anyway, so I definitely think Best is playing. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I don't necessarily want that. Like, I would pick differently, but I definitely think they'll go Anderson, Archer, and Broad.
Yeah.
Just because they're like probably the most trustworthy bowlers, I guess. They've kind of shown over, well, Anderson and Broad for the last 10 years, Archer for the last 12 months, that they're top class bowlers. Mark would definitely know.
Yeah.
I just, it's hard to say because obviously I wanted him picked in the first test after a good South African series, but I just honestly don't know if he's built for test cricket. Like, realistically, what he's built for is to run in and bowl like 3 overs of rapid pace.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure if that suits test cricket. And he's kind of like Mitchell Johnson in the early days before he turned good. Like, he'll produce a pearl every now and then, but he bowls a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And I guess you can argue the same with Jofra. He bowls a lot of poo as well. Like, in that first test, he was bowling a lot of full tosses and stuff. But yeah, Jofra often finds a rhythm like he did in that second innings, and then he goes to work. Well, I don't think Wood has really shown that, and it's off the back of that first test. I don't think he really deserves it over any of the other guys. And then yeah, it's a tough one because I'm also a big fan of Curran, and if I'm honest, if I was to pick the side, I would probably only go with one of Broad or Anderson because I think at this point in their careers, they're very similar bowlers. Like, they both, they're not bowling that fast. They're bowling 135s, and they're more about accuracy, seam, swing. So I would personally only go one of them, but I definitely think they'll both get picked. Like, I would rather see one of them get picked, Curran for the left arm, and then Archer for the pace. I think that would be a well balanced lineup. But yeah, I definitely think Broad, Anderson, and Archer pretty stiff on Wokes. Has the best bowling average for the series out of all the England bowlers actually.
Yeah, he bowled well.
Took 5 for 76. Almost an economy rate of below 2, strike rate of 44. So he'll be pretty stiff to be dropped. And I think he made a few runs in the first innings, maybe. Not sure about that. But yeah, pretty stiff for Wokes, but it's kind of just the theme of his career, isn't it, really? Kind of always just does a decent job when he gets picked, and then he's just seems to be the one who gets left out. But oh well, he'll keep grinding. Broad and Anderson, their careers are like, in their twilight phase, so I'm sure he'll get his opportunity if he keeps bowling well. Did you hear James Anderson came out and said he wants to play in the 2021-22 Ashes in Australia?
Really? That's 18 months away. So
Yeah.
he'll be like 39.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be against it, but
he's not that good in Australia though.
yeah,
But I guess Stuart Broad's not either, is he?
he's got a poor record. But
Yeah,
last
I guess
Ashes
most
over
people-
there, he was
which
the
bowlers
best.
don't. So
Yeah, true.
But yeah. So interesting there from Jimmy. But if he's there, they'll pick him because he's an absolute legend of the sport. And then so that's pretty much it. There's going to be no batting changes, obviously, because there's not even anyone included in the squad who could be an option.
Yeah, I found that interesting because obviously they finally dropped Denley after our best wishes, but then Crawley got his opportunity and made a golden duck, and then teed off in the second.
You can't drop someone after one.
But yeah, so I was actually worried. Like, I wanted them to.
Oh, okay.
But I was worried they were going to bring him back, which would have been shocking. But yeah, I'm glad
you've got to commit. Give them at least 1 or 2 test series in the position. I think, especially such a pivotal position like number 3. I also saw some people calling for Butler to be dropped. Pope keep. That works at 7. Which is an interesting one, but then all of a sudden you're falling into the standard England trap of just having like 2 bowling all-rounders at 7 and 8, which is just not...
Oh, and then have an extra seamer.
Well, Wokes as the extra seamer.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah, like I don't want Butler to play, but it would only be for folks, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if we look at the West Indies, obviously we're not the most knowledgeable on their side of things, but they've had serious issues in the top order. John Campbell does not look up to it. He kind of just, I think he's gotten to the point on the tour where he's like, I'm out of form, so I'm just going to try and swing my way into form, which is just not working for the great man. Um, I think it was in that second innings maybe, but he often does this. He'll hit a couple fours early and then he'll just like broad or something will make him look like a fool. So there's people saying he might be dropped, and then there's also people saying Shy Hope might be dropped. But Jason Holder came out this morning and he was backing him up, saying, "Nah, we like have full faith and hope." But he didn't say anything about John Campbell. So
stiff.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. Do you think they should make a change? Like they've done pretty well this series.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Hope won't get dropped. I'm not really sure who's in the pecking order to open.
Yeah,
but
the only three options are, so they've got that Bonner guy, Nkrumah Bonner, but he's the middle order batsman. He's the only guy in the squad basically, and then they've got Shane Mosley, who is a experienced, like he's played a few tests here or there as an opening batsman. He's in the reserves, but he did nothing in the practice games, and then they have Josh Witter Silva, who he actually scored 190 in one of the innings opening the batting. He's only 22, so he could be a kind of left field choice, but I honestly think they're just going to pick the same team.
Yeah.
It's only been a 2 tests so far, so I guess off a long break, it would be fair to give them another shot at it.
Yeah, there's not too much reason to change things up.
Yeah, but in the long term, I think there's a few players this is a really important test for. I think it's really important for John Campbell and Shea Hope, both of them, because Darren Bravo and Shimron Hetmeyer, you would assume they're going to be back for the next Test series, and they're both batsmen who have batted at 3 and 4 in the past. So all of a sudden, Shea Hope could be left out of the squad for the next test. Well, not the squad, but the first 11 in the first test of the next series. So I think it's a really big match for him. He's shown a lot of promise his whole career, really, but he hasn't really produced much for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Maybe a batting order shuffle, which Michael Holding or Ian Bishop, I can't remember who was saying it, they were suggesting that. They reckon maybe Hope down to 5 or something, which I think could work. But the problem with that is Brooks is doing really well at number 4. Chase is doing a fairly decent job at number 5. And then Blackwood looks like a natural number 6 for the lower order batsmen.
Yeah.
Lower to middle order batsmen. So I don't know if you really want to disrupt that just for the benefit of a player who's out of form, because it's kind of like it's their issue. You shouldn't really punish other players for it, kind of. But Roston Chase and Brooks both, they've shown good temperament, so I think they would both work at number 3. But it's kind of, you don't really want to disrupt it, do you? It's a pretty big risk.
Yeah, it wouldn't be shuffling those guys around.
Yeah, so we'll find out tonight, I guess, what they do. And then in terms of England, obviously Joss is going to play, despite a few people on Twitter calling for that Pope keeper shuffle thing. But it's a big test for Joss Butler's career. If he doesn't make runs in either innings this Test match, I think he would be like, I would be backing in Ben Folks to start the first Test of Pakistan series. I don't know if they play because I know there's no Test players in the one-day squad against Ireland, so I don't know if there's a first-class practice game in between. I doubt there would be because it's quite a tight schedule. But yeah, I reckon Ben Folks would be given the crack because you can't. This isn't good enough for Butler, is it?
No. Yeah, we wanted Folks to play this series, and yeah, he should be the man. But yeah,
like it has to be said, it's a bit stiff on Butler because especially in this series, there's been a few innings where he's kind of had to be selfless. Like when he was opening with Stokes, that's obviously not his position, is it? But
yeah,
that's just something a wicketkeeper does, and there's been quite a few times where it's actually been the perfect Joss Butler situation, and he's come in and only scored 20, 30. which he needs to be scoring into like 60s and above. So yeah, I reckon it's a really big test for Joss Butler. Not so much with the gloves. I think he's been doing a fine job there, but yeah, especially with the bat. Is anyone else under fire, do you reckon, for the England lineup in terms of that Pakistan series?
Well, Burns hasn't made any runs, has he?
No, he hasn't. He made a 40, I think, in the second innings of the first test.
So I mean, there's still the potential for Denley to push out one of Crawley or Burns. Like Crawley could open, but apart from that, I think we'll definitely stick with Pope, even though he's done nothing.
Yeah,
because he had a great series against South Africa and he's up and coming. But yeah, not too much, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, maybe they might lose patience with Pope at 6 and might put him up the order.
Yeah, potential.
See if he prefers that, because a lot of the time, similar to Butler, he's kind of coming out and like lose situations where he's got to bat fast, and it's not really his game, is it? But yeah, Burns probably the one in trouble most. But even then, it's only, like I was saying, for the West Indies, it's only 3 tests back from lockdown, a 3 or 4 month lockdown. So I think they will go pretty much the same lineup. Especially if they win the test. If they, get skittled, it might be a different story, because it'd be a pretty embarrassing test series loss, if I'm honest, if they lose this one. West Indies, I don't think, had a single point in the Test Championship coming into this. But yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for that series. Anything else you would like to point on in the Test match coming up tonight?
Nothing in particular. Just hope the boys can back it up.
Yeah,
to win the series.
Yeah, would you prefer them to bat first or bowl first, mate?
Well, we always like seeing, Jimmy open the bowling on day one, but probably unless the conditions really suit it, I'd probably be saying to bat first.
Yeah, it showed in that second test that it really can set up a test match.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna just talk absolute rubbish and try and get this up to an hour or anything. I'm just gonna cut it there. That's all we wanted to talk about, really. Got some big episodes coming in the next few weeks. I know I've got one. I think I'm actually recording 4 episodes in 4 days. Because I'm recording 1 today, 1 tomorrow, 1 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. So
big schedule.
Loving the potty life. It's good fun in uni holidays. Good luck for uni results, mate. Coming out on Monday or Sunday if you've signed up for that. So good luck to anyone who goes to the same university as us, or anyone who's getting uni results. And yeah, stay tuned.
You too for that, mate.
Thanks, big fella. Stay tuned. Some big episodes coming out. So yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for joining me, Pilch.
Cheers.